Hey everybody, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I have a huge pile of pages to get through today. These dies that are on today's pages are going to be dropping in September of 2025, and so we have several exciting ones coming. If it's no longer September 2025, it's likely these dies won't be available, although you can sign up for our email newsletter and find out when they will be back in stock. Also, these ideas apply to any time you're watching this video, so hopefully if it's in the future, you come back here to get some ideas or to see dies you might be interested in going forward. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the flip through. So the first dies I'm showing are the Wright corners frames. These are level 1 dies, so they are a frame like this where there's basically a border around the frame, so you have a main section for your photo, and then there are these borders, and then all of the dies have these little squares in the corners. Why this die is called Wright corners? So it's actually named after Frank Lloyd Wright, who was a very famous architect and made some very amazing modern homes. So Tammy named this die after him because she finds his work inspiring. So this is a very nice, modern, clean, crisp frame die that can pretty much go with anything. So on this layout, this shows Yellowstone National Park, and I love these frames. This is the 3x4 size and they look beautiful. I use white and you can see those lines crisp and clear. And I have these pattern paper borders, and this is just kind of a red color with some flowers in it to go with the nature theme. I have this on denim grid paper. It is a black, white, and blue color scheme. Because this is a national park, I wanted to choose American colors. And they're not a bright blue or bright red or anything, but it still has that color scheme, which is great. And this color scheme is also great for summer pages or outdoor pages. So I feel like when I look at this, I don't think of a American flag necessarily because it's not overly bright like a national flag usually would be, but the color scheme is still there, and I think this looks great. I think these dies showed these little portrait photos really, really well. All right, I wanted to show this one. It has 3 different sizes of Wright corners. So Wright corners does come in different sizes. So this one shows the 4x4, 2x4, and the 2x2. And again, you're seeing all these straight lines with these square corners. So looking at the 4x4, you get a bigger space than the 3x4 I showed earlier. And in this case, I did not use pattern paper in the longer parts. I put in photos of the trees in the area. This was obviously taken in Georgia. And the squares do have pattern paper that kind of goes along with this. And so that's what I have here. So these are 2 separate photos. And then in the 2x2 here, this is all the same photo. So this works great if the photo, you can see it has this fountain in Savannah, Georgia. That's amazing. And it was taken from far away, so it was perfect way to fill in the 2x2 here. And it also has those corners with the pattern paper, and the same thing over here. And then in the middle here, I really like this. So this is just, if you look at the photo, it's just a photo of a street, and you see some trees, and it's all the same photo. I also put in the words Georgia. So I don't do this very often, but this is something you can do, is put letters over a photograph, and you can totally do that, and it gives your page a unique look. But this is a very fun one. I think this one's really, really pretty. All right, here is another great one. I love this layout, Wright corners. It's a very modern and contemporary look. And this is one of the fine art museums in Washington, D.C. And so this is part of the Smithsonian, and this is where they have their modern art. So I thought these dies would be excellent for this page. So I think Wright corners is great for cities or somewhere where you're going where everything is a bit more modern. So I have the 4x6 size here, and I used just some, it's pattern paper, but it has more solid coloring to it. So this dark blue and this red, and then here's my focal point. All of my frames are the same color. They're all cut with white. But then in these sections, I filled the entire space around the edges with this distressed blue. So here I have the 2x4 and I have the 2x3 in the top and bottom, and each section shows different works of art that are in this museum. So I thought it was perfect, and I did choose white on purpose because it reminded me of a museum. You know, everything's so clean. So, you know, they usually use white walls or gray walls to not distract from the art. So I felt like the right corners gave this page a very nice, clean, modern feel that really worked well with these photographs. This layout here was created by Jody, and I need to say that she is very talented with our frame dies. I feel like every time I give her an assignment to use one of our level 1 frame dies, she always does a really good job with them. So I'm always impressed with what she does, but this is one of hers. This is a nice, simple fall layout that I really like. In this case, she cut her frames a cocoa brown, which works perfectly with fall. And these frames are all the same. This layout does a really good job showing rhythm. So we have the square photo and then the frame, and then that continues around as this really nice border that goes around the middle here. And I love the paper she chose. Pattern paper or cardstock, whatever you choose to use for your right corners, is going to be an important choice. And, you know, whatever you choose is going to help tell the story on your layout and help your photos stand out. But I really love this green. It looks like a leaf pattern paper. And then in the corner, she added a wood grain. So looks really nice. And I love how that green helps highlight these fall photos so well, especially this one. I think that looks so good. She did a great job with this. I love it. I think if you're going to copy one from today, I think this one would be it, and it looks really good. This one's also from Jody. This one shows our little 1x1 inch right corner dies. So this one's not really a frame, but it is a fun little decorative feature. I think this layout looks so good. It has nice colors. It has a very nice feminine feel. So right corners may seem very modern, maybe even a little more masculine, but I felt like on this layout it worked great as well. And I love her color choices here. She has this orange from Cool Drinks. It's called Tangy. And then this nice softer blue and the pattern paper. It all just looks good. It's a nice spring layout, but I really do like the right corners. Again, this one's not really a frame, but it makes a great embellishment that's very simple and modern. It's so pretty. All right, here's another one from Jody. This one shows the 3x3 right corners frame size. And again, she just repeated the same thing every time. But here's a closer up. She has, this cardstock is called Fresh Malt. And by the way, if you like this color, we do have it as a grid paper 12x12, but I want you to know we also do have cardstock that comes in the same colors as a grid paper. Not all of them are available, but if you really like this brown here, this is called Fresh Malt, and so you can recreate something like this yourself. But Fresh Malt is one we offer as a cardstock, so go check out our cardstock category on snapandcrop.com, and if you like this, we have it. But here she has this nice floral paper and then black corners, which is really nice. Those black corners pop out a lot, and I feel like it adds an elegance to this layout. This layout altogether is really nice with the black and the simple green, and then there's a little bit of yellow in there. And right corners is a great way to highlight photos, and it adds something decorative, because of course we could just go the basic die route and she could have just shown these in little squares, but I love how the right corners really does help highlight these photos, and again helps tell the story. You know, adding in some fun elements and some extra colors can be fun for your layout as well. And this is a farm layout. They went pumpkin picking, and these frames look really good for even this kind of theme. Even though it feels a little more modern, it also can work for something a little more rustic as well. So I like this one. All right, this is the last page with right corners. This is made by Jody. She used the 4x5. So at this point, maybe you're picking up that there are many different sizes of the right corner frames. And then we have the 2x3 in the corners. This is a very nice layout with the purple, and then she has, it's not an orange. I don't know how else to put it, but it's more of a pumpkin orange. So this looks like, I don't know if this was taken in the fall, but it looks like a nice fall layout. But I really like the right corners. Again, she used this nice darker brown as a good contrast, which is really important when using thin frames. I talked about that with the level 3 dies, but this is a level 1, and it still has the thin frames, and I feel like it's good to use a contrasting color. And then we have this pattern paper, and in the corner she added in a light purple color. So this is a really pretty one. This is one of my favorite ones from her. I think the colors look really nice together. All right, up next is our Perfect Spot die set. This is a level 2, and I will say this first layout is probably a little more advanced, but I'm going to show more ideas with Perfect Spot. But this set has different die shapes. So one of them is a circle, and there's a half circle shape, and then there's this shape here. So that's not all the shapes, but that's a few of them. But basically you get the idea is you basically build a design, and you're able to fill part of the design in with these circles and half circles as well. So for this layout, I took multiple photos to piece together this panorama shot. So I really love the strip dies for panoramas, but you can really make panoramas with other dies as well, including Perfect Spot. And I really like how fun it is with these different shapes. And then here I cut out pattern paper with these half circles. That brings this design a little more interest. And in these two circles, I really wanted to highlight the buffalo, the Antelope Island, even though it is called Antelope Island. There really are antelope there, but they're also buffalo, and I thought this was a great way to highlight them. There are some layering sizes, so you can see I have some pattern paper, and then I use the layering size to cut my photograph. So, and I like doing that in this case where I use photo here. I like having a little more separation and matting the photo that'll be in the center, or have it the other way around. I could also mat these ones and have this one be a photo as well. But this is a really cool one. This is one of my favorite layouts because the colors are great. And I just love that panorama of the sun setting across there. It looks so good. And I think Perfect Spot just made that view look so amazing on this layout. All right, here is a much simpler design. This one was made by Tammy Potter, and you can do something like this. You can just keep it simple. It's the same shape as before, although these were glued over 2x2 squares, and she didn't even fill the center with the circle, but you could do that and that would be pretty easy. But she just used pattern paper and some cardstock, and it made a very nice decorative element for this layout. And I will say this layout just shows us going on a plane and being at the airport, and I can't say you can usually make super exciting pages with these, but I do like this element here. It adds a little more fun and brightness to this layout. Again, you know, you see on the airplane everything kind of looks white. Everything's like white and gray in these photos, so this adds more color and interest, and I really like that. So you can go simple. You don't have to do something like a panorama, and it still looks really good. I love that shape right there. Up next is this Perfect Spot layout, and I will say this one is a bit more advanced. So basically it's a huge panorama, you can say. It's one big photo. This actually was not printed really big, although you could do that. You could print out one big photo and then cut all the different pieces with the Perfect Spot. But these were actually pieced together with 4x6 photos. So basically what I did is, I think these were only 1 or 2 different photos. And before I printed, and I do this sometimes where I will crop in. So maybe I crop in this section and then I will print that part, and then I'll crop in a different section of the photo. So it's all one photo. Like I said, maybe I used 2, it's been a while, and then piece them together. Again, you can print the photo bigger. I might recommend printing, you know, a few 5x7 photos if that's easier for you. So for this layout, if I'm using 4x6, I had to print at least 8 photos because a 2x2 size. You can only really cut one across because there's not enough room. Like I couldn't cut these two at the same time. So I must have had at least 8 photos to make this. If you use 5x7, you need less, but this is something I may need to do a demo of another time. Let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a calming demo. I might do a calming demo of how to do something like this. So let me know if you would like to see that, because a lot of people ask how I did this. And I'm like, maybe I should show how I did this. I made this a while ago. But in this case, you can see, and I did this on purpose because I wanted a way to fill in the area with more circles. And I also have some half circles here. And this page shows this shape, which I don't think I've shown so far. So that is one shape we have in the set. And again, all of the dies have layering sizes. So here I use cardstock and layered the photos on top. And of course, usually with a scrapbook page, I would make these photos bigger. But in this one, I wanted to do something different. And I have some of the scenery obviously filling in the outer section, and then we are in the smaller sections, like we're in this space. I don't know. I think it helps tell the story. It's kind of a fun way to take your time and look at what's going on in these other spaces. So it's small, but I actually like it. I think it's just a different way to show the story on your scrapbook page. So this is not necessarily for everyone, but I thought it was fun. I had fun making it, and I kind of enjoy having those photos be smaller and have it be surrounded by these other photographs. I think it's fun. All right, this page is really nice. I have some pattern paper borders here. Those were hand cut. And then I have the perfect spot filling in the center section. So there's a couple things going on here that are fun. So all of these spaces, except for the middle here, all these spaces have different photos. And I wanted to create a little contrast. So all the photos were pretty much taken outside. And then my 4 circle photos, those were photos taken inside. And in this case, I don't have my circle photos matted because I matted these other photos. I could have matted this one too, but because there's the separation already with the paper and photo here, I didn't feel like I needed to mat these circle photos. And I could keep them a little bit bigger. So I think this looks nice. I printed my photos. I think pretty much all of them were printed smaller. Maybe a few were already far away enough I could keep it 4x6. And then this here was made by one 4x6 photograph. The reason why I was able to achieve that is because I used the layering size. So if you use the layering size, you can cut this whole section out with a 4x6 photo. So I cut these out, and then I had this circle here. This just had a very nice effect. So this is one thing you can do. And then the perfect spot can be filled with different photos. It doesn't all have to be with the same exact photo in the entire space. So this is a really nice one. I really like this one. All right, this one was made by Jody. And this one's also another simple idea where she has 4 different sections with perfect spot. In this case, she used the one that's more like a square. It does have the one corner that's rounded here. And she did fill in each of these square sections with the same photo. Again, she was able to achieve that with a 4x6 photo because she used the layering size. So again, you can fit all of that, and you can get all of this from one 4x6 photograph if you use the layering size. And then in each section, she put a circle photo in the center. So this is a really nice fall layout. She has this cocoa brown and used a nice pastel blue that stands out on the cocoa and yet helps these fall photos stand out as well. So again, you don't have to go very complex. You can go simple. You could probably make this page fairly quickly, especially if you had photos like hers where it's more of landscape. You could probably get those cut pretty quickly. But perfect spot to me, I call it the Legos of Mosaic Moments because you can build it how you want. You can do different things. You have lots of different choices. So every time you use it, you're going to get a different result. So this one's a lot of fun, and you're bound to make something very different every time because there's different shapes and there's different ways to fill them in. So I think if you get this one, you're going to have a lot of fun if you're really into making things your own way, and or you want dies with more options. And if you like taking the time to be creative and create new things, I think Perfect Spot is great for you. Up next, we're getting into our level 3 die sets. So that's really exciting. So here you may recognize this one. This is our angles dies. So this one shows the 2x6, and as you can see, it basically creates a giant diamond shape on your layout. So 2x6 is pretty big if you wanted this whole thing with one photo. That's going to be too big for 4x6, so you need a 5x7. It might have been the same 4x6 photograph, but it was probably 2 different sections, so they probably didn't line up exactly like this in the photo. But in this case, I had photos of this brick, which I love taking photos of different textures and walls like brick or stone. So I use that to decorate my page, and then in the little triangle sections I have different areas of this historic park. So all of these have different photos, and again, this is the 2x6 size, so I think this one looks really nice. All right, this one is a 2-page spread. This one shows the 2x4, which was designed to line up with the 2x6, so you still get that same diamond shape, but instead of the little 2x2 squares in the corner, you can fill it in with a 2x3 if you used a 2x4. So this one here, I have this pattern paper, and then each triangle shows photos from the beach. So this is a fun one, but I actually want to show this one because it's a 2-page spread, and I wanted to show this neat trick. So here I have the 2x4 going around, and when they're next to each other like this, you can create mini diamond shapes to mimic the diamond over here. And what I also noticed when I made this is that if you fill in the pattern paper a certain way, you can get this pinwheel shape in there as well. So I used the same papers over here, but I did change out the paper in these other spots, so that way this pinwheel would stand out even more. So there's 2 things going on here. We have the mini diamonds and this pinwheel shape. It's pretty awesome. When you start filling your dies in a certain way, you get to see all sorts of surprises, because I didn't even know that was necessarily going to happen when I made that. All right, this layout was made by Jody. This is one of my favorite pages from her. So this layout shows the 2x4, and it's very simple. She just has some cardstock filling in this area, which is really nice. You know, she has a lot of photos going around the edges here of all these pretty nature shots, and I feel like this gives your eye a break and adds simplicity around all these other photos with a lot more going on in them. So I really like the simplicity of this page. And here the 2x4 is right next to this photo, so it creates a smaller diamond shape. So you don't have to go really big with the 2x4. You can do something like this. But what's also cool about this layout is in these triangles, Jody actually used a map. So this is a map of the area her son and daughter-in-law actually were at the time. So that is something fun you can add to your pages, as a map or a photo of a map. If you don't want to put the actual map in there, you can take a photo of it. But it's a really cool way to help tell the story, and it's a really fun embellishment to add to your pages. So this was really fun. All right, here's another layout with angles. The 2x6 is at the top and the 2x4 on the sides. And what's fun about this one is the way you're gonna have to fill in this center section. So there's different ways you can fill it in. In this case, I did something a little more unique. So I have this 4x6, which I really like how it lines up the 2x4 here. And then I needed to fill in these sections, so I decided to fill them in with little 1x2 photos of different details around this area. It was a really cool way to show it. And I feel like they're just big enough you can really get a lot of the details more than a little 1-inch square. So this is something fun to try. And again, all of your layouts are going to look different with angles depending on how you fill in the middle here. Again, it's easy to put the photos in the triangle sections, but in this case, I put in pattern paper here that has different words about traveling, So I thought that was a fun element, and it was also more simple. It doesn't make the page feel too busy. So I really, really like this one. All right, I have two page spreads here. And so let me get this one. So this one has a 2x6 and 2x4, and I really like what Jody did here. She has her pattern paper, but then she has these same yellow flowers going around there that really emphasizes that diamond a lot. And those flowers really stand out, and they're really pretty. I'm going to show them close up. I think those are awesome flowers. So I really like that a lot. Those colors stand out a lot and really emphasizes that diamond shape. And this is another 2-page spread idea you can do. She just took the 2x4 and then put all the photos in different rows. And even though it doesn't repeat the diamond shape, she did repeat the same colors and the photo and the pattern paper in each of these sections. And that helps tie in both of these pages together. So very nice layout, very simple. Angles is a level 3 die, but it is very simple to use. So this is a great one if you've never used a level 3 so far. All right, here is another 2-page spread from Jody. I want to show you this. So I really liked it when she made this one. This one's a little bit different than what we've done before. So here she has the 2x4, and most of the time we place it next to the center photo, but in this case she actually put in some pattern paper strips here and put them further away from the center. So I thought that was an interesting look. This could be a good way to add journaling very easily as well. If you wanted to add that in, I think that would be a great design if you wanted to add journaling to these strips. Here she just filled in these sections with 2 different pattern papers, and I think it looks really nice. Everything's coordinating very well. And then over here, she did the 2x4, this kind of the same way as before. So before it was like this, and then this way she did it vertically, which I really like. I like these columns a lot. And then she still added in the strip in these areas to mimic what was going on over here. So I thought this layout was really well made, really well thought out, and something a little different. And I really like how she put the sticker here. So, you know, you can always make room for little things like that with the basic die bundle for sure. You could possibly put stickers in these sections as well. But I really, really like this angles layout. This is a really fun one. I think it turned out really good. All right, up next is our bridge dies, which bridge is one of my favorite dies. It is amazing. If you don't have it yet, I would definitely grab it when it comes out in September. So this layout shows our 4x5, 3x3, and 3x4 sizes. And you can get this awesome ring around your layout. So here I have this awesome pattern paper. I thought it looked really good with this. So I have this nice lighter blue and my photos. And then my die cuts were cut with white, which you can almost never go wrong with white. And it helps that pattern paper stand out so well. I just think it looks so good in that ring. And of course, the 4x5 size, it's gonna allow you to cut your photos bigger. And the 3x3 cut your photos a pretty big size. You lose a little bit of the corner, so that's something to be mindful of. But the 3x4 is the one you have to be particularly mindful of because you're gonna have it cut right in the center. And a lot of times we take our main subject right in the center. So that's something to keep in mind, that you're gonna be missing that part. And so you wanna choose photos where you keep that in mind. So this was the same photo and this was the same photo, but you can see how I could have those nice details here, and you can see a little bit the lighthouse up here. These two were the same photo, different from these two clearly, but you can get the same photo cut with those two little pieces. And so all together, this layout looks really nice. I love it. And then there's a second layout. I wanted to show this. So you have a 2-page spread option. So in this case, the 3x3 was used to fill in the center with that same pattern paper filling in here as well. So just a really easy way to make a 2-page spread. This one was made by Jody, and I wanted to show this one because you can have a nice rhythm going in the bridge dies. So we have she has the pattern paper here and then a solid cardstock with some words, and then she repeats the pattern paper, and so it repeats around the layout, and it has this nice rhythm to it where everything's equal around the layout. So I wanted to look at this one because it looks really good, and I really like the paper she put in here as well. The pattern paper really does stand out. Even though it's a small area, it can look really, really good in there. So I really like this one. This layout was also made by Jody. This can also be another great design for your 2-page spread. So you could have the full circle on one side, and then this can be on the other page. So this one's pretty simple. She has some scenic photos and then some really pretty pattern paper. And then to the sections, she clearly added some journaling in. I think this turned out to be a very pretty layout for prom. So again, very, very nice for a second layout for a 2-page spread. All right, this one was also made by Jody. I really like this one because instead of pattern paper, she filled in her ring with photos from this nature walk. And it's such a nice page. It shows this is a girl she knows and she loves holding animals. She's brave enough to hold things like frogs, and I think that might be a snake. So some kids are, brave enough to hold things like that. So she caught a few of those moments in here too. So such a cute photo. And then in these areas where the 3x4 are, there's some of the scenery. So the 3x4 is great for things like scenery. And then I love this. So for this layout, she has the 4x5 in one spot and then the 3x4 down here. And so she had this extra space, which this is a great idea if you want to add a journaling spot, which originally she just had the photo and I told her something felt like it was missing, and I told her to put some words on top, and I think it looks really good. You don't have to use a photo background, but you could make this a journaling spot with cardstock as well. Again, if you are figuring out how to fill this in with journaling, this is going to be one way you can achieve that. All right, here's another amazing one by Jody. This one is so cute. He's wearing a little dinosaur costume that's so it looks so comfy. I love what Jody did here. She filled the spots with different pattern paper, and I think it looks so good. It's a great way to add some color. It's very playful. It works so well with this theme. They were at an apple picking place, and it just looks so cute with this. So this is something fun to try. If you have some coordinating pattern paper and you would like to fill it in, or you feel like your page needs a little more color or something more fun, this is a great way to do that. And the bridge die does make that easy with all those little spots. So turned out really cute. The thing I would say is what also helped is she did keep that rhythm again where everything's placed in the specific order. So that really helps your eye go around the layout easier. All right, I wanted to show this one because I wanted to show that the bridge dies do make journaling so easy. And I know one of the pages before showed a spot to add journaling. So if you really want to add in a journaling block, you can do that. But the bridge dies, because of this ring section, does make it easy to add journaling. In this case, I added a lot. I found this the back of one of our all season papers, but it's really easy to write on it with a dark pen. And so you can see that I have a lot of words going on here. So you can add a ton of journaling if you want to. This one is simple, but still has some journaling. So there's Mount Rainier, has the date, who was there, and just says exploring Washington. So this is a really nice one. Again, these dies make journaling easy. You don't have to fill it in with a bunch of words like my previous one, but it can be something like this. And as you can see, there's just enough space to really add the basic information in. So if you're someone who loves journaling, I highly recommend bridge dies. I feel like out of our level 3 dies, this one's going to be one of the easiest to add your journaling. All right, this is the last bridge page, and this one also has journaling. So in this case, I have the journaling on the top and bottom on these strips. And this design is so cool. Instead of a circle, it's an oval shape. So I don't have this at the very bottom and very top. You can see I have that filled in with pattern paper, and then in the middle I have these 2x2 squares going across. This is a very attractive design. Everyone who saw this loved it. I loved it very much. Very simple, and that paper makes it very pretty. I love the bridge dies. But I love this one too. And the thing is, this was a memory out at Disney World, and I didn't feel like the photos were particularly special or anything, but adding in the right colors and adding in these bridge dies just made this layout way more awesome than I would have imagined. So really cool. And again, you can add something like these strips on the top and bottom to also add journaling without worrying about filling in the bridge dies at all. So again, very, very pretty one. All right, now I'm going to be showing the Crisscross Die Collection, and yes, it will be back in September. So this is one of our most popular crisscross pages. This was made by Jody, and altogether has some pretty simple colors. We have this kind of sandy color and this, I don't know, it's called sage. It's kind of a green brown color, and then she mostly has this wood pattern paper. So the colors are very, very simple. And then what I love in this 4x6 section is she has this blue paper, and it makes the layout pop way more. And that's what I love about the 4x6 crisscross, is you have all these really nice lines, and I just love that because you just need to add a simple cardstock and it makes the whole page. Seriously, it just makes the whole thing. Because the rest of it, like I said, it's so simple. Without that nice blue in there, I think this page will look really bland. And just that one little color added into it made this layout. So something small really can go a long ways. So again, crisscross is coming back. And as you can tell, the lines really do crisscross all over this layout. All right, this one is pretty simple. It shows our 2x4, 3x3, and 3x4 sizes. This was the Jungle Cruise at Disney World, so this was a fun way to show different details from that ride. Some pictures of us I try to fit in, but this was a really fun one, and this pattern paper is really fun too. It's a very nice jungle layout, and I did add, maybe you can see, I add some distress ink around the edges. So that's something you can do. I don't do it all the time, but certainly for something like the Jungle Cruise, like if it's something rustic, I really like adding that ink. And even though it's really small, I feel like it still makes a big difference on the layout. So that's just something fun I like to do on occasion. All right, this one was made by Tammy. This one shows the 3x5 and the 2x3 on a pinwheel design. Again, it has a very nice rhythm with this larger die, smaller die. If you've watched my design breakdown videos, I talk about hierarchies. So this would be the main part of the layout, and then you have your next things down, and then this would be, you know, the supporting element. But I really like this one. 2x3 actually comes in two different shapes. So there's one with all four of these corners, and this one doesn't. It kind of looks like a tag. You might be able to use this for a card or something just for that part. But I really like this. I really like the pattern paper added here. It gives your eye a break from the photographs. And I don't know why, I do like that flat edge here. It allows you to add more of the photo or pattern paper, whatever you're using, without losing it from the two corners. So I really do like that. This is a nice page. I think there's lots of nice colors in this one. All right, this one shows our 4x4 crisscross, which is in the middle. And this one you will need to pick out a particular photo for. Here they were at a distance, so this one worked out really well. You can fit a 4x6 photo in this section, but overall I think it's really nice, and it really highlights whatever is in the middle really well. This one shows our other 2x4 die that, again, like the 2x3, this one has the two corners, but then over here it's flat. And again, it's really nice to have that flat side because you can show more of your photo without losing those corners. Plus, in this case, what I really liked about having this one is this section makes this cool X, and it gets more attention, I think, than if we had the corners on these edges. So that's something to keep in mind, is what kind of design you want. And I think this one looks really good. This pops out a lot, whereas, and not having those corners there really helps it pop a lot more. But this is a really cool one. The 4x4 is very intricate, so I think that's why it looks really, really good. All right, now I have a 2-page spread, and I will link a video. In the video, I show with this layout how to create journaling spots for these unique shapes. So I have journaling on the 2x4 here and in the 2x3. Obviously you can see over here it's written with more things, and here it's kind of more of a title. I will link to that video so you can learn how to add journaling to these different dies. But again, we have the 4x6 with that yellow paper that makes this photo stand out a lot. And the 3x4, which I just kept the whole photo in that space, and then the 3x3 I added the yellow. I think I felt like it would be way too much to add pattern paper in these spots because the yellow stood out a lot already. And then in these sections here, I actually use a photo that was close up of the rocks, and I did that over here too. I love these little 1x1 inch ones because you can make this awesome little X shape. I think it's really cool. It gives you a 2x2 center, which I decided to keep it simple and added a little sticker. And I use photos of the rocks around here to create this really fun decorative element. But this is a nice rotational layout with the 3x5 and 2x3. And again, this is the 1x1. This is the 2x3 with all 4 corners in it. So you can see you do have less room for your photo, but whatever page you're making, it may work for you. It can be a good way to add more color if that was your goal. So this is a really fun one. Again, go check out that journaling video if you want to learn how to add these to the crisscross dies, or really any level 3 dies. All right, here is another 2-page spread. So this one has something a little different. So I have this, and I want to point out that this makes a little carpenter star. So I have the 3x4 facing this way. So I have my 4x4 here. Again, this photo was taken at a distance, and then hopefully you can see it makes this little star. The trick is to fill in those areas with the same photo or pattern paper so that way it gets emphasized. So that was a really nice layout. And then over here, so on this layout, it has the crisscross dies, it has the 4x6 over here. And then in these 2 corners, I took the 3x4, and you can see how I filled both sides with the same photo. So that was a really fun element, and it actually makes it feel a little bit less busy because it doesn't feel like there's a lot going on. And it gives a unique view of that scene. So this 2-page spread is really fun, and it shows a few different ideas that you can use at home. All right, the last dies I am showing in today's flip through that will be available in September are the Serendipity dies. So this is Serendipity. It's a 5x5 die, and so you only have to cut it 4 times, and you have your whole page covered. And then the fun with Serendipity is filling it in. So you're gonna have your 4 spots for your main photos, and then the rest of it you can fill in with pattern paper or more photos. In this case, Jody filled it in with a lot of pattern paper, and it's really fun. I love filling in this section the same, and then we have this nice blue going around it, and then each of these photos has that nice orange to help draw your eye to each of those 4 spaces really well. So again, really fun one. It's a nice way to highlight your 4 different photos with all that fun pattern paper. This one was also made by Jody. You don't have to fill in the entire page with Serendipity. In this case, she only filled in 2 sections to help highlight these 2 photos. Her color choices are really nice here, and I really like that pattern paper. And then she has these 2 photos that were just made with the basic die bundle. So a very nice simple layout, but the Serendipity still stands out a lot. I really like this one. It's so pretty. All right, this one is pretty cool. This one has, as usual, the 4 photos. Here I have the pattern paper going through this section. I did place some circles on top. Those were made by different dies. You can do something like this at home where you cover the center with an embellishment die. And it's also a way to add in an extra photo as well. So I have my paper here, and then I have a pattern paper here that I think I put chalk ink on it because I wanted it to be a different color from everything else. So that way the middle stands out a lot more. And I have a very simple pattern paper going around the edges. So this clearly has more importance because the color is a bit different. And then what's also awesome about this layout is these sections have this awesome rock photos. I really like that a lot, and I had them basically line up all around. Like there's a rock trail or something. So this page turned out really well. It's really pretty, has a lot of great details. So Serendipity, even though those sections are really small, it really helps highlight those rocks a lot. It's pretty awesome. All right, I'm getting into my 2-page spreads now. So I wanted to tell you that when this die returns, it will also include our sequel die. So sequel, there's 2 different designs, and there's this one, and then the other one I think just doesn't have that cross there. But basically what this die does is it mimics this center. So can you see that, and then see that shape is repeated over here. But I didn't have to fill this entire page in with Serendipity all over again. So this is really nice. First of all, I was able to add in more photographs. If you wanted, you can add in more than even I did. So you have your nice Serendipity layout, and then you have a layout that still goes with this previous one, but you can add more photos or add more journaling, whatever you want. But this one I also added this circle with the star embellishment. So again, you can add a little circle in there to cover up that center section. Here I did fill this in with a photo. You can fill this in with a single 4x6 photo, but it will be very tight. So you definitely want to use washi tape, and you really want to take your time if you're going to do something like this. But I also filled in this with the same photo, and up here's the same photo, and here too. So I kind of used the die to sneak in more road trip photos. So you don't really look at it at first, but if you keep looking, you'll notice, oh, there's little photos around here as well. So what the cool thing about Serendipity is it basically creates a kaleidoscope look. So it's pretty cool. You can sneak some of these things in, but obviously there's some pattern paper here as well. I think making it completely photographs might feel a bit too much, so I would plan on having some pattern paper, or just cardstock would work wonderfully as well. So really, really fun one, and I like that over here I was able to add more photographs. All right, this is the last page of this entire video. And here I have Serendipity, and I wanted to point out that sequel can be used with Serendipity. So I have the 5x5 in the 2 corners, and then the sequel here, and it still makes that center shape. I was able to add more photos in these 2 corners because I use sequel. So sequel, again, is great for making 2-page spreads, but it also allows you to add in more photos with your Serendipity pages. Of course, we have some pretty colors here. This is of Jamestown, which normally I would choose historical related, like browns, greens, or something like that. Historical colors, but because it was a page of me and my sister, I decided to go a more feminine route. So it's a little different, and that's why I like this layout. It's a little more surprising. And over here, I have Serendipity right next to each other. So I thought that made a very nice second layout. And you can see on here, I added all of these photos, and in here, and even a journaling spot. So this page really has a lot of photos, and you can do that too. So I'm really glad Serendipity and sequel, if you use it in different ways, you can still fit in more than just 4 photos. But I think altogether, this is a pretty layout. All right, we have reached the end of today's video, and I'll just go over these really quick again. We have the Wright corners frame dies coming back, and they're level 1. And we also have perfect spots coming back. These are a level 2 die set. We have angles, so that'll include the 2x6 and 2x4 sizes. See here. We have the bridge dies coming back, so that'll include the 3x3, 3x4, and 4x5. And then we have Crisscross. So the entire collection is coming back, and that'll be a variety of different sizes. And then we also have our Serendipity dies coming back. So Serendipity will include the 5x5, the little 2x2 sequel, and it will include pieces as well. So these are really exciting, again, coming in September. And for the design breakdown videos this month, in September, I'm going to be showing this one with the right corners, this one with perfect spot, this 2-page spread with the angles dies. I'm going to be showing this one with the bridge, and this one with crisscross, and this 2-page spread for Serendipity. All right, that is the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know which of these dies you are most excited about in the comments below. I'd love to know which one is your favorite. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.